Hello, everyone. Welcome to Normal America Show, podcast edition. It's your host, robnoerr. You can't see me. Maybe I have clothes on. Maybe I don't. I have clothes on. I'm just joking with you. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. What's up, Sparky? What's up, Mick Linebacker? Sparky, I know you're on a text chain with me. Some of our friends were showing some trick-or-treaters and family members dressed up. Pretty cool. I know it's cheesy. I like Halloween, though. I like watching little kids have fun. So it's a good time to just watch little kids. I had a great time last night. I'll talk. We'll talk about amnesty. I should dress up as a leftist. I'd look like my cousin Craig if I did that. Trans-positive Rob for Halloween. No thanks. Don't need to scare the kids. Yeah. Hope everyone's having a fantastic night. Unfortunately, I worked and I missed trick-or-treating tonight. But last night we did some. So first off, let me ask you this. How is the audio? Can anyone let me know? How do I sound? I still do not have the microphone that I was going to bring because I forgot it at my house. So this is actually through my cell phone. Figured out a way to do sound through the cell phone. Yeah, you're right, Sparky. That story is crazy. I'm going to read more on that, and hopefully that'll be all my show tomorrow covering this DHS link. Audio's a little tinny. I don't know how to fix that. Better than the Fetterman debate. That's what we'll take. I did buy a little $20 remote mic, but I forgot it at home. For those that don't follow, when I'm not at my home office, I'm using inferior equipment. I had this, it was called a Samsung Meteor mic I had forever. One of my coworkers threw it away accidentally. So, yeah, you're covering it tonight? Yeah. Good deal. So, unfortunately, the sound quality has gotten poor, but, hopefully it's doable for now. But, yeah, I'll talk a little, I don't know, real quick before we get in, we'll just talk a little about Halloween here. So, I don't know, when I was growing up, I lived in a town that was like, blocks. It was a small town. There were basically 3 streets in the town, horizontally and then vertically, I don't know, probably 10 blocks. And there were, probably within 5 years of me, probably 25, 30 kids in that little town. I'm guessing. I could be wrong. But, so, you always went trick-or-treating. It's a rural town. It was fun. Where I live now, even though I'm rural, I'm on I don't want to say a highway, but it's like a road. It's a state route, and you can't really picture kids walking up and down this route. So my house, we don't get trick-or-treaters. But what happens is a friend of ours where I used to rent that owns a restaurant. Hey, thanks so much, Gizmo. I appreciate the cheer. That shouldn't have went through there. Wait a second. 1 second. Give me a second. My audio's, that shouldn't be. Aha, there we go. So they have what's called Trunk or Treat, which I'm sure people have heard about. And Trunk or Treat's just where people show up in a parking lot with their cars, and they make their cars look like a cool Halloween thing and give out candy, and then the kids, it's kind of better for the kids, I think, because instead of having to walk all up and down the street, it's just like, bam, every 5 feet's another person giving you candy. So it was, last year Hank went as a pumpkin, and obviously he wasn't even 1 year old last year for Halloween, so he didn't really know what was up. This year, he went as Bluey. It's a character from a show that he likes called Bluey. It's actually a pretty good kid show, Australian. But long story short, he could have cared less about the candy. he just loved running around and seeing everyone in costumes. There were a couple of adults dressed up like big dinosaurs. They had these like big inflatable dinosaur suits on. He thought that was the coolest thing ever. He ran around. It was on a blacktop surface where we were doing it, and he kept jumping around. Within 10 minutes, his knees and his butt was just covered in dirt from this blacktop, but he just had a blast. I mean, for 2 hours, he just ran and ran and ran and ran. Could have cared less about candy. I kept trying. I was like, come on, let's get your bucket. Let's go stop. Nope. He wanted to play with, like, you know, the balloons that were set up, parking cones that were there. He was playing with them. There was a smoke machine. He was playing in it. Streamers. The candy could have cared less. I swear to you, I think he probably got 6 pieces of candy, and that's just because people, like, tossed it in our bucket as we were going by. So, but he had a lot of fun, and it was really cool. And me and my wife split on who was hanging around with him and then who was handing out candy. I love handing out candy for little kids. Like, my favorite Halloween story was some years ago. This is probably 3-4 years ago. I was working with a client, and I work with people with disabilities, and this particular client was super excited to hand out candy and had a blast. It was really cool. I love any time that you could get, the people I work with interacting with the community in a cool way like that. And it was really cool. Just brightened up this guy's day to see all these people dressed up. It was a lot of fun. And he liked to ask me, every person that came up, what's that kid dressed up as? And, you know, now, I don't know, like, I'm 35 at the time. Half the time, I don't know, they're like, you know, some new superhero or kids show I don't know about. But some of them I knew, obviously. And so this little kid, he has to be like 5-6 years old. He comes walking up, and the guy I work with's like, hey, who's he? And I said, oh, he's Harry Potter. You know, we've watched Harry Potter, the wizard. And this little kid just looked at me with the biggest grimace and goes, I'm not Harry Potter. I'm Ron Weasley. I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry. It was such a cool attitude, this little kid. He's like, don't you know anything? I'm Ron Weasley. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. That's my mistake. Oh my goodness, that's one of my favorite Halloween moments. I'll remember that forever, man. That little kid was so proud of his outfit. I thought that was so cool. So, now it was cool. It was cool walking around with Hank and, seeing some people we know and some that you don't, and just seeing everyone's cool outfits. So, a lot of fun, and I hope everyone's having fun tonight. I'm on the East Coast, so trick-or-treating sort of wrapped up here. It finished at 8. But like I said, I was working and unable to give out candy tonight, but I did last night. So, and then a lot of scary movies going on with a lot of the people I work with. Different holiday movies. Scary movies is a big thing for some of the people I work with. And so today I watched, while I was doing work, I watched Poltergeist and Halloween 1 and 2. Did not get to see Season of the Witch, my personal favorite, which is Halloween 3. But Uncle Lil's got a good Halloween. Send Hank out to rake the lawn soon. That's the number one reason I have kids, so they can do your lawn work. I'm building him up for it. You gotta get his legs strong again, so good times. So, but I was thinking, scary Halloween stuff. What's on the top of your list? You got Michael Myers, from the Halloween movie. And I was thinking, right, you think of it from the context of, like, you're a kid. When you were a kid, I was born in 1984. So you think of the things that you would have found scary, like the movies you found scary when you were a kid, or now, like, I thought that Freddy Krueger was really scary when I was a kid, because the whole premise of you fall asleep and then you have bad dreams because you watch a scary movie, and bam, that's how he gets you. So I thought that was scary. Michael Myers was always scary to me. But you wonder, like, if Jeepers Creepers would have been out as a kid, would the Creeper have scared me? And so I was trying to think today, if I was a kid, what sort of things would scare me the most? And at first I was thinking, because I saw Poltergeist, and I was like, oh yeah, that's scary, with the little girl in that movie. But then I was thinking, what about Joe Biden creeping you out and sniffing your hair? making you feel his leg hair in the pool. That'd be pretty scary. That's right up there. Poltergeist, Michael Myers, Joe Biden's creepy leg hair sniffing your hair. Then, of course, you have Randy Weirgarten and Dr. Fauci colluding together. That'd be scary as a kid, right? Right? To be locked down, not be able to see your friends. So some creepy old people can have their political power. Get glamour shots in magazines like Dr. Fauci. That'd be pretty scary, wouldn't it? So all kinds of things for the kids to be scared of this Halloween. Of course, impending nuclear war, but that's not just a kid thing. That could scare us all. So a nice bonding moment. Oh, kids, come on, don't be scared of the creepy monsters on the movie. Those are all fake. Now, Joe Biden getting us into World War III, yeah, that's actually a possibility. That's something to be scary. You're going to go out today as your Biden supporter, but your daughter said, well, that's a bummer. Hopefully your daughter's feeling better. Tickle This Elmo says, do I want to do Powerball with you? Over $1 billion. Here's the deal. I won't send you money for a ticket, but if you win, I'll take half. I'll engage in that deal. But I will thank you. I'll shout you out. So, after taxes, what do you get? Half a billion? Powerball. That'd be nice to win. Or just to be Zelensky. That'd be like winning the Powerball every day. Oh, yeah. Phantasm was cool, right? With the balls. Yeah, that was cool. I don't know what, but like for me, when I don't know. I like horror movies, but when I was a kid, I wasn't really into them. Now, the scariest scene in a movie I've ever seen was from the movie Talk Radio. And it's based on a true story, but it's an old Oliver Stone movie. And it's about this talk radio host. It's like this super liberal dude. And it's basically 2 nights of him working. And he thinks he's getting a big network job, and then he doesn't. So the second night, he's like, screw it, we'll just take all the calls. I'm going to spoil the movie for you right here. It's based on this real story of these, neo-Nazi group that killed this talk radio host. And that's basically what happens in this movie at the very end. But before that, there's a scene where this guy, he's unfiltered taking calls. Yeah, John Carpenter's the thing. It's got to be right up there. He's taking calls, and he takes this call from a guy who basically is like crying and admits that he's this like serial rapist who's about to strike again. I saw that movie when I was probably 20, and it always scared the shit out of me. Like, it was just so creepy and felt so real. It was, I don't know. But I always like Silence of the Lambs, the first one. But anyways, enough talking Halloween. No one follows me for this type of stuff, right? It'd be nice. But no. That's not why you're here. You're here to hear me yell about our stupid establishment, corrupt, inept, horrible system that screws everyone over. That's what you're here to talk about. We're here to talk about amnesty. Paying attention. I watched a little about that affirmative action case. The DHS leak, I'm going to try to talk about more tomorrow. We might matriculate into that tonight as well, though, because I think it's connected to this case. So first things first, let me promote myself. I was only going to my work setup here is kind of crazy. I can't really type normally. Long story, but what I would like to do is start off by playing a video of mine. Find where the share button is. So let's watch a video of Rob. I realize I don't like how that came out. That's interesting. All right, just 1 second, Rob. I'll post the link here. So this is on YouTube. You should also be able to find this on Rumble, though. And I am going to try to start putting out like a 2 to 7 minute video every day. So you can check that out. Maybe that's something you would enjoy. I know I would enjoy for you to watch it. So I put my headset on and we'll give this a listen. It'd help if I give you audio, huh? Oh boy, it's one of those days, huh? Try again. So there's an article that came out in the Atlantic today, and it's talking about how we should give amnesty to everyone who had different opinions at the beginning of COVID and throughout COVID. This is the worst possible thing. I predicted that this would occur. The people that cheered for authoritarian, draconian measures that were designed to make your life a living hell if you disagreed with them, when proven wrong, would say, oh, our bad. Well, don't blame us. We were trying our best. Now, let me be clear. I think there were people that weren't designing to make your life hell for the sake of it, just because they wanted to. Many of these people were duped, and they wanted to virtue signal, and they felt that their lives were suffering because of the measures that we took against COVID, and they wanted someone to blame. And it was easy to blame Trump supporters, and it was easy to blame people that were asking questions and saying, wait a minute, is this necessary? Those people we were told, they want grandma to die. They're the reason. It's a virus. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It's those people questioning. And so it was easy for a litany of people to come out and say, yay, we're going to attack those people. We're going to make their lives hell. We want them censored. We're going to blame them. Those people existed, but make no mistake about it. The people that were issuing these proclamations and these authoritarian policies, such as lockdowns, locking down kids, forcing people to take medications against their will, those people knew exactly what they were doing. They told us that we were supposed to blame people like me that were accurately raising questions such as, should we intentionally destroy our economy in order to fight a virus? Should we punish kids by locking them down when they don't seem to be that susceptible to the virus? Should we force people to take medication, many of which, such as young, healthy people that previously had a case of COVID, seem to have more protection than those themselves that are vaccinated? People were convinced that someone like me ought to be censored. Someone like me ought to be one that was told, you're at fault for all this. And meanwhile, the people that were encouraging masses of people to believe that were people like my governor, Tom Wolf, whose administration forced nursing homes to accept COVID patients. I was told because I thought that it was wrong to lock down young, healthy people from going to work, which resulted in them losing their small businesses, losing their homes, losing their ability to have money in the bank, going into crippling debt. I was told by thinking that was a bad idea that I wanted grandma to die. Meanwhile, the very people telling me that forced grandma to be in a nursing home next to a COVID patient, and then she died. And now they want amnesty? They told you in Michigan that you couldn't get seeds, that you weren't allowed to plant a garden. They arrested people for being in public parks and on beaches. They locked down kids while they themselves, the parents or the teachers, went out on vacation and things that they told you shouldn't be able to do. Governors, politicians, senators, representatives that told you needed to be locked down violated their own lockdown to eat at the French Laundry or get their hair done or go march with Black Lives Matter. They told you COVID was bad, so you couldn't go to your job, but racism was worse, so you could go ahead and go to a million-person Black Lives Matter rally. They told you that you couldn't go get groceries in some places unless you had a vaccine passport. And yet they themselves say that those sorts of IDs and passports are racist when it comes to things like voting. They covered up the fact that they encouraged gain of function and paid for gain of function research in the Wuhan lab. They told you to even say that this could have came from a lab in China meant you were a racist, and instead you had to believe their theory that a bunch of backwards people in China were eating pangolins and bats, and that's what caused it. All the while it was for their personal benefit. They got more power, they got a transfer of wealth from the poor and working class to the upper class, they got to cover up their crimes. They want amnesty? Just this week, we're finding out that the University of Boston, the Imperial College in London, all of them are continuing gain-of-function research on COVID to make it more lethal. And there's a better-than-not chance that's how we got in this situation in the first place. All of your loved ones that died, all of you that lost your homes or lost your business,
All of you whose children didn't get a proper education. And now the people that forced it upon you and told you that you were immoral if you questioned it are deigning to tell you, oh, our bad, but we shouldn't judge anyone. No, we should judge people, because if we don't, these same authoritarians will issue these declarations when it comes to the next pandemic, or when it comes to climate change, or when it comes to the next enemy like Russia. They'll say, shut up. You're a person who only wants us to die, who wants this country to suffer. If you don't believe us, you should be censored, and you're the enemy. And then when they're wrong, they go, oh, our bad. No, the destruction that they brought for the past 2 years in this country is despicable. And make no mistake about it, the people at the top levels did this not just to facilitate their own power, but to also blame the former President Trump. The reason Trump lost, largely, is because of the handling of COVID. Now we find out that Dr. Fauci, the guy that we were told we have to trust, was funding the Wuhan lab that likely created this, and that they were forcing a bunch of stuff on us that they knew was authoritarian and had no proof would work. The pain was the point. They wanted the country to suffer because we needed to be punished for voting for someone that they didn't like. Enough is enough. These people need to be held accountable. Republicans, if they win the House and Senate, which looks likely, need to immediately start holding hearings on people like Dr. Fauci. The people that did these things need to be held accountable. Your family and friends that treated you like crap because you were right and knew that lockdowns were a disaster and locking down children were a disaster. Remember that. They're the people that will sell you out in the future. It doesn't matter if they were misled. They cheered for authoritarian policies designed to punish you because they thought you were the enemy. Now they don't get to say, oh, well, forgive us, we meant well. So to the Atlantic, I say, no, I'm sorry, no amnesty whatsoever for the people that push these authoritarian policies. And I'm going to double down on my efforts at holding each and every one of them accountable.
Someone fact check him. Fact check him. Oh, my name's Jimmy McGill. Coming in, and I want to talk about the Paul Pelosi story. I'm a leftist.
His personality is flamboyant as his...
What is this? Go away, 60 minutes. Jimmy McGill, classic leftist, wants to come in and control the narrative. We won't be talking about Paul Pelosi here. I've already talked about them. Now, what do you have to say? We'll give you a chance right now. You have a chance to say how much you condemn Democrat incitement of left-wing violence of the shooting of Steve Scalise and how you blame the Democrats. You have a chance to blame left-wing incitement of the assassination attempt at Kavanaugh. Go ahead. That's your chance to do so now. Stop playing these games where you leave people derail. Someone comes in, this is probably a leftist that was probably going to the Herman Cain Awards Reddit post that was making fun of people dying that didn't have COVID vaccines, or maybe he was one of the leftists that was calling his local police saying, so-and-so, my neighbor doesn't have their mask on, they're going out there. Or he was happy that your kid was stuck home at school, or he was more than happy that you couldn't go to the nursing home to visit your grandparents, but the COVID patients were put in. That's the sort of fucking pieces of shit that this Jimmy McGill character is. Now, I don't have proof that this specific guy did any of it, but he's a dime a piece as well, these NPCs are. Comes in and starts saying, oh, this guy's talking about all the horrible shit that he was right about COVID from the entire time in the beginning. And now people like me that fucking were against him and said he should be censored and said that we need to trust the science and shit, but we didn't trust it. And now all these people have been harmed. Now we just want to move on from it. Can we move on? Can we move on? Let's say if I was incorrect about one part of that, about the seeds. I know this. I can pull up video after video, picture after picture that shows stores in Michigan that had their seed section roped off. Perhaps I was wrong about that specific thing. Perhaps Whitmer, who did encourage lockdowns of schools and things like that were irreparably damaging children, maybe she didn't specifically say you couldn't buy seeds. I'll look into it. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know he didn't have anything else to say about the rest of that, did he? He just said, oh, wow, no one's fact-checking him. Fact-check me, motherfucker. Want to call in? Want to talk about it? All these fucking tough guys, randos on... Don't leave them. Do you understand? This is how they try to control the narrative. One sec. Oh, thank you, Gizmo. 25 months. Thank you so much. Oh, Jimmy. Not calling in. Not much more to say. Thanks for the follow, Kyle. USA Today says, differences in stay-at-home orders issued by state and local officials create conditions for misinformation. On April 13th, conservative blogger Pamela Geller claimed on her website the Michigan government would ban the sale of American flags. Post refers to a tweet that shows a set of photo flags cordoned off. I didn't believe it at first, but Whitmer's order does indeed require stores to shut down their gardening and planting sections, founder of the conservative magazine Federalist. In Michigan today, you could buy weed but not seeds, State Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey, a Republican, tweeted. On April 9th, Whitmer issued an executive order extending the state stay-at-home order through the month's end. The order expands social distancing measures that were implemented, including restrictions on in-person commerce. The state's FAQ on the order says, while the order places certain limits on how goods are sold, it does not ban Michiganders from buying an item, including flags. The order notes large stores must close off areas of stores meant for carpeting, flooring, furniture, gardening, and paint. The limits apply only to in-person sales and do not apply to stores with less than 50,000 square. The order says they must close off areas of the stores for blah, 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 gardening. So you could have bought your seeds online to be delivered, but you couldn't go to the store to get them. It's somewhere like Home Depot. But I lied. That was a lie. That's misinformation. Someone fact check him. No, Mr. Neighbor Guy. Just like, you know how many people I've talked to that say, oh, we didn't have what lockdowns? What lockdowns were you talking about? What lockdowns? I don't remember that. I don't remember lockdowns. It's amazing. So fact check. Rob said they told you couldn't buy seeds, but what they really said in Michigan was you couldn't go to a store's gardening section. But technically you could still purchase seeds like from a neighbor or an online store. And notice how he comes in and he's like, Elon Musk tweeted a fake story about Paul Pelosi. Was it fake? I don't know. Notice you didn't hear me talk about it. My take was quite simple. I'm not giving oxygen to the story because it started off on a false bullshit accusation that people like me are responsible if some lunatic goes out and harms Pelosi for correctly pointing out the terrible policies of people like Pelosi. And I don't buy it. And I'm certainly not going to listen to sacks of shit that stood by idly while there were all sorts of heinous things said about Trump and Trump supporters and Kavanaugh and blah, blah, blah. And violence was being issued against them. And they didn't once say, oh, our bad. They laughed at Trump when he had to be taken to a bunker. They laughed at Rand Paul when he got his ribs broken. They continued to cheer on illegal protest outside of Supreme Court justices' homes after an assassination attempt on Kavanaugh. And still, we see, even though I put the video up that talked about this, but I don't have a huge reach, still, and even I'm doing it now, people continue to talk about this story. I don't know. It's fine if you have an interest in it. Every second you spend on the Paul Pelosi story is a victory to the left. Regardless of what the outcome eventually is. Even if it turns out that it was all bullshit. It doesn't matter. How's the economy doing? How's the border doing? How's the sexualization of our children under this administration that's cheered on by so many lefties? How's fentanyl overdoses? How's inflation? How's our foreign policy look right now? They're experts at controlling the narrative. Crime, yeah. That's what they do. You can go to Defiant L's on Twitter and see post after post of people that made fun of Rand Paul. Yeah, we all support Rand Paul's neighbor. And then they're posting today, my God, these evil Republicans inciting violence. Not one fucking shred of proof. that this guy listened to any of these particular Republicans and did what he did. And even if he did, so what? If Democrats didn't have a mea culpa when Steve Scalise and a bunch of Republicans got shot, that's it. End of fucking story. Now back to COVID. Yeah, outdoor playgrounds closed. Outdoor weddings, cops being called on them. People being arrested at the beach for jogging and swimming. I remember seeing videos of that. Remember, they were all talking about the point was to make your life hell if you didn't take the medications they wanted. That was the point. To make your life hell. Those people were out there talking about vote Democrat for bodily autonomy. Why did they want to make your life hell? Because it was all about authoritarianism. It was all about control over your life. How many videos, well, I'll just tell, I bet you were like me that you saw tons of videos of little kids, 2, 3-year-old kids bawling as teachers and parents continue to force masks on them. What lesson were they teaching our kids with that? Unquestioning obedience. Now we see a story comes out today that the Intercept broke, which shows what we all knew to be true. Definitively. That the government was in regular contact with social media groups, encouraging the censoring of all sorts of topics, not just surrounding COVID, but also the Afghanistan withdrawal, the Russia-Ukraine situation. That's what this is all about. Unquestioning acceptance of the establishment narrative. They'll beat it into your kids. They'll beat it into you. They'll beat it into your family members. And they'll bullshit you and say it's for your own good. It's not. They locked your kids down against all signs. They intentionally crashed the economy knowing that that would happen. They bullshitted you about, oh, the vaccine will stop transmission. That was a lie. They told you that the virus was bad, but racism was worse. So if you wanted to do Trump-connected things or Republican political things and things like that, or God forbid you just wanted to go to work to feed your family, you couldn't do that because it was non-essential, and that would make you a super spreader. But if you wanted to go with a 1 million-person Black Lives Matter rally, you could do that. That was okay. Somehow the virus knew. It knew. The first virus in history. Of course, Singing's Out was most likely made in the lab. Fuck, maybe they did intentionally create it that way. But that's what I was told. I was told over and over. You're selfish if you want to go to these events. And then when lefties did, we couldn't have, not me specifically, I was very lucky throughout the pandemic. But I knew people couldn't have funerals for their loved ones. But they got to tune in, didn't they? And see, oh my goodness, when Representative Lewis died. My goodness, that was a big funeral you got to see. George Floyd's funeral, that was big. You couldn't. Is that nice? I'm looking for a video of mine. Now, I've been talking about this forever. Oh, don't tell me. Did I delete this video? Let's check Rumble. This must have been one of the ones YouTube got me. I had to take down. 1 second. Okay, let me get a Rumble. Sign in? What is happening here? Oh, come on. Give me a second. Well, okay. I have to go to the restroom. But let me just give you one example of the stuff that they did regarding COVID. While they were telling you all this was for your own good, all of these science leaders and politics leaders. Here's a video I did over 2 years ago. May 5th, 2020. One of the reasons you could tell that this shutdown isn't a good faith effort to keep us safe, but is instead pejoratively a power grab, is that the people in power that are enforcing it aren't abiding by the own standards that they put forth for us and enforce that we have to follow. Now, this is common when it comes to authoritarians, particularly Democrats that are in power, or socialists, or even some establishment Republicans. They'll suggest rules and laws for you that they themselves are exempt from. For example, they want open borders while they live in gated communities. They want to take away guns from you while they have armed guards. Even with this lockdown, we've been seeing a lot of these public voices, these people of power, suggest the lockdown. Oh, we have to follow the quarantine, while they themselves didn't. We see de Blasio saying you shouldn't go to parks that aren't your public park, while we catch him miles away at different parks exercises. We see Chris Cuomo, the media member, who supposedly had coronavirus, but found time while he was supposedly quarantined to be out riding a bike and threatening neighbors. We've seen the mayor of Chicago out telling people they shouldn't be on the street, while she herself is out on the street. And example after example of this. I want to show you a story that is insanely hypocritical and shows just how ridiculous these people are, and the fact that they aren't taking it serious, which shows that this lockdown isn't because they seriously think it's a good thing, or if it was, they would be following their own enforcement guidelines. So, this article is from Zero Hedge, the link will be below. Scientist whose doomsday model sparked global lockdown resigns after breaking quarantine to bang married lover. This is from today. Professor Neil Ferguson, whose dire coronavirus predictions prompted worldwide lockdown measures still in place, broke his own advice on the need for strict social distancing to hook up with his married lover, according to The Telegraph. Quote, on at least 2 occasions, Antonia Stotts, 38, traveled across London from her home in the south of the capital to spend time with government scientists nicknamed Professor Lockdown. The 51-year-old had only just finished a 2-week spell of self-isolating after testing positive for coronavirus. Professor Ferguson told The Telegraph, I accept I made an error of judgment and took the wrong course of action. I've therefore stepped back from my involvement in SAGE, the government's scientific advisory group for emergenics. I acted in the belief I was immune, having tested positive for the coronavirus and completely isolated myself for almost 2 weeks after developing symptoms, he said. I deeply regret any undermining of the clear messages around the continued need for social distancing to control this devastating epidemic. The government guidance is unequivocal and is there to protect all of us. Ferguson, who resigned from his government advisory position on Tuesday, predicted that up to 500,000 Britons and 2.2 million in the U.S. would die without measures. Somehow Sweden, which enacted virtually no measures to mitigate the virus, has a lower per capita mortality rate than the UK, Italy, Spain, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands, all of which enacted lockdown measures. And while his computer models were flat wrong, Ferguson, who leads the team at the Imperial College in London, has frequently appeared on media to support the lockdown and very intensive social distancing measures. Of note, Ferguson and Stotts hooked up on March 30th, the same day he gave a public warning that the 1-week-old lockdown measures would need to remain in place until June. Stotts, a left-wing campaigner, visited again on April 8th, despite telling friends she thought her husband might have come down with the coronavirus.
Oh, so she's sleeping with a lover who is diagnosed with the coronavirus and then is telling people, oh, my husband might have the coronavirus. Sounds like a great woman, huh? Quote, she and her husband live together with 2 children in an expensive home, but are understood to be in an open marriage. She has told friends about her relationship with Professor Ferguson, but does not believe their actions to be hypocritical because she considers the households to be one. But 1 week before the first tryst, Dr. Jenny Harries, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, and Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, clarified during the daily Downing Street press conference that couples not living together must stay apart during the lockdown. Quote, he has peculiarly breached his own guidelines, and for an intelligent man, I find that very hard to believe. It risk undermines the government's lockdown message, said Sir Ian Duncan Smith. Meanwhile, over 9,000 fines have been issued to quarantine violators in England and Wales during the lockdown, while Scotland's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Catherine Calderwood, made 2 trips to her second home during the lockdown, resulting in her resignation. Isn't that amazing? So the Imperial College study, which was the one that was used by the UK and partially by the US to justify the lockdowns, the guy at the head of that that's on television telling everyone, oh, you have to take these lockdowns very seriously, it'll save lives, gets diagnosed with the coronavirus and still goes out and commits adultery, which then may have resulted in his mistress's husband getting the coronavirus. This is the sort of hypocrisy I'm talking about. Here we see another person, Dr. Catherine Calderwood, who was in charge in Scotland and was recommending enforcing these lockdown measures. She too violated the lockdown measures. Why is it that these people that we have to listen to, oh, they know so much, we can't question them, you have to trust the scientists, yet the scientists don't trust their own advice? If they were worried this was an apocalyptic scenario with a disease that was going to kill us all if we didn't stay sheltered at home, why are they risking their lives to go have sex with mistresses? It goes to show you, this has never been about keeping us safe. This hypocrisy should not stand. The evidence is out there. We see from this, and I'll be doing a video on it in the near future, about Sweden. We see how places that didn't have the lockdown had almost the exact same curve as places that did have the lockdown. Now the difference is when places that lockdown open up, they're going to see a spike because they've sheltered us from just getting this not very lethal, low mortality rate disease in the first place, just like the flu and things like that. Instead, they kept us sheltered, which didn't allow this sort of herd immunity to take effect. And now we'll see a second spike. Whereas places like Sweden that didn't do the economic and rights infringing lockdown are doing just fine. Better than the UK with their massive lockdown. And all the while, every time someone like me's questioned it, I've been told, oh, you have to just accept these doctors. They're geniuses. How dare you question them? You want people to die. Yet the doctors themselves, when it comes to them, when it comes to their livelihood, they don't follow the own draconian authoritarian measures that they say the rest of us should have to follow. Everyone should be outraged by this, and you should call your local representative and tell them you're tired of this shutdown. It's time to end this disastrous policy. Hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe.
Oh, we don't want to hear from you. Like and subscribe. Blah, blah, blah. See the date in that? May 5th, 2020. My beard, I trimmed it up. I was doing video after video after video. Yeah, I'm watching an old video. That was May 2020. Thanks, Mix-a-Lot, for the cheer. There's another video I want you to see, if I can find it. And by the way, I do these videos. I'm not getting any engagement. Now, that video had less than 200 people. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying. I was on this from the get-go. So many Johnny-come-latelys, even conservatives that were telling you, well, 15 days to slow the spread. Where was I? I was calling it from the get-go. But I don't market myself good enough or something. I'm looking for a particular video. See, I could just find the timeline. Oh, here's an oldie but a goodie. It's worth I always like bringing this up. Good friend of the show, Dylan Burns, and his hypocrisy on COVID. What you?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry. I just want to be
You
very
think
careful.
that people that have had COVID and have natural immunity should get tested or get vaccinated, right?
Yes.
And your philosophical premise to such is, even though it might be against their wishes...
But everyone, by the way. This is everyone, them included.
Okay, and so my question to you, Ian, are you vaccinated? You don't have to tell me if you don't want.
Yes, I am. I have both vaccines.
Should you be forced to get tested every week?
No, because I'm vaccinated.
You're more likely to spread and catch the disease than people with natural immunity, and you think they should get tested every week.
I'm more likely to catch and spread the disease, but I think they should also get vaccinated. You know what, Rob? I'd be perfectly fine with people who have natural immunity going that route. If there was an exception and you can prove that to me.
So wait a minute, what made you change your philosophical position? It almost seems like...
Wait, 1 second. Give me a moment here. Somebody's telling me that's not true. I'm sorry. I'm trying to... I thought we were going to talk about something a little bit different here. So that's why... Give me a second here. He's right here, actually. If you see the finger of COVID, your arm's ready. Yeah, I mean, honestly... So
you just backtracked your entire position as soon as it was an imposition to you. As soon as it would have been you...
Yeah. That happened. That's how these people were. Constantly. I'm still looking for the... Let's see if I can find the video I want. Hopefully it's up here. There were people other than me. There were, like, Jesse Kelly was on it. What politician? I mean, even DeSantis initially locked down. That's a shame. It might be gone. Here's a video I did, right? 2 years ago. This is from May 26, 2020. Ready? Who else was doing these sorts of videos?
The people that support the lockdown have said that if we didn't have the lockdown, there would be catastrophe. Millions of people would die in the countries or states that didn't do that. We see that's not true in the case of Georgia and Florida, where they predicted human sacrifices and untold amount of deaths. Yet we're seeing that that's not the case when they restricted their lockdowns. And in places like Sweden that didn't have a lockdown, even though their deaths per capita may have been higher than places like Norway, we see that they were much lower than places that had huge lockdowns like the UK. But still, we were told that doesn't matter. The fact it was higher than Norway and Finland and other Scandinavian countries proved that the lockdown was justified. Well, another nail in that coffin, as the public health director of Norway has came out and said that the lockdown was an excessive mistake. Let's see what she has to say. Norway could have controlled the infection without lockdown, says the health chief. The head of the Norwegian Institute of Public Health believes Norway could have brought the coronavirus pandemic under control without a lockdown and called for the country to avoid such far-reaching measures if hit by a second wave. Camille Stoltenberg, the agency's director general, told state broadcaster NRK that the agency's analysis now suggested less restrictive measures. Our assessment now is that we could possibly have achieved the same effects and avoided some of the unfortunate impacts by not locking down, but instead keeping open but with infection control measures, she said. This just goes to show another nail in the coffin of, but we have to lock down. We have to lock down. The lockdown, particularly in the United States, was about devastating the working class. It was about killing the economy to harm Trump's re-elections. That's why we see an article in Politico today that says Democrats are worried the economy could start to come back online before the November elections. That's what it was about. They wanted to collapse the middle class. They wanted to collapse the U.S. worker. And that's exactly what they're using this for, to gain more power, to have wealth redistribution, and make the federal government a socialist nightmare that destroys this middle class. This is more evidence that we need to fight against these lockdowns. And even the experts that we were told you have to trust experts in places like Norway are now starting to say that the lockdown was a huge mistake.
That was May 2020. Telling people then, before the election, they're intentionally collapsing the economy. They know this will collapse the economy. They're doing it so that Trump doesn't get elected. May of 2020. Meanwhile, Trump supporters, some of them, which I myself was one, were on my chat telling me, how dare you go against Trump? That's how long I've been covering this. Here's more. Now, I didn't plan on doing this today, but they want to rewrite history. They say, no one knew, no one could see this. There were no lockdowns, no one was saying this sorts of stuff. I was doing videos on it every day in real time. And I never have time to go through my old videos, so now I'm kind of interested. Just going, and imagine how many of them I had to delete because YouTube. All of that material I did lost. Which is the point. They want to make sure everyone memory holds all of this stuff. Here's another good one.
So here in Pennsylvania, we have little tyrant Tom Wolf that's been telling us we all need to lock down and be coward in fear of the coronavirus, or we're cowards. And so I wondered what would happen when predictably the Democrat-ran cities in this state would have these riots. Would Tom Wolf come out and call these people cowards that are out there violating his social distancing ordering in counties that still haven't gone green? Well, let's see what Tom Wolf's statements is right now as Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are on fire. He says, and I'll link both articles below, as Pennsylvanians protest, I urge everyone involved to be peaceful and keep each other safe. Throughout the day, my administration's been in touch with municipalities, and we've offered whatever assistance is needed to keep our communities from suffering from additional violence and pain. Please stay safe and remember that we must all look out for each other as we seek to make our Commonwealth more just and fair for everyone. That's funny. That's a far cry from what he said about the protest in Harrisburg about the lockdown, where he said that these people were cowards and were endangering lives, and he threatened that anyone who violated his lockdown order because they were endangering lives with COVID, that they jeopardized their future and would be gone after financially. Don't believe me? Let's see what he says. According to the governor, counties that don't follow stay-at-home order will not get funding since they're putting all of us at risk in operating illegally. He says non-compliance will not qualify for federal stimulus discretionary funds. To those politicians who decide to cave into this coronavirus, they need to realize the consequences of their cowardly act. The funding we have put aside to help with fighting this crisis will go to the folks who are doing their part, and that includes our CARES Act funding that will be used to support counties that are following the orders and prevent the spread. If that's the case, then I assume he'll be withholding money from Pittsburgh.
Non-smoker, what's happening? Thank you so much for the raid. We are talking about the Atlantic article that said we need an amnesty for people that advocated for terrible policies during COVID. And what I'm doing is going back through my material, because everyone's pretending, oh, there weren't really lockdowns. Oh, it wasn't that bad. I'm going through my material. Right now I'm in May of 2020. Showing video after video I was doing, showing the lockdowns, the hypocrites, the people that we knew at the time it was bad to do these lockdowns. Now they're saying, well, how could we know? How did I know? What's my expertise? Yet I was spot on. I said that it was going to crush the working class. I said that the lockdowns were going to harm more people than they saved. That it wasn't necessary, that it was intentional, that they were intentionally sabotaging the country because they wanted Trump out of there. By the way, that's why they were encouraging and allowing riots to occur over and over. Thank you so much for the follow, Svat. So I just thought it'd be fun to go back and look at some of these videos. This video was from May 30th, 2020. Let's see some more. bring some up. Now, I also had to delete a ton of videos because YouTube constantly giving me strikes. Here's one. This is similar. This is Tom Wolf violating his own orders. Now, a little context here. This actually is my most viewed video ever. 8,000. I'm a small streamer. This is from June 4th, 2020. You're going to hear, and it's hard to hear, but you're going to hear some audio of my friend Todd Bartley, who's a journalist who I used to do a radio show with. You're going to hear him ask Health Secretary Levine, you may know her as Admiral Levine, our fantastic trans admiral. You're going to hear him ask a few questions, or at least one question. So this is 6 minutes. I'll play it. Again, this is from June 2020.
On May 11th, Governor Wolf came out and released a statement on county commissioners that were threatening to violate his lockdown orders and open up. The reason they were doing this is because they were concerned their constituents were losing their livelihoods, not being able to go to work. Wolf was not impressed with this and thought that there would be consequences for people breaking his law and that it would lead to the virus spreading and putting everyone's life in jeopardy. Here's from his statement. In his latest press briefing, Governor Tom Wolf responded to the politicians planning to defy the stay-at-home order. He called the move a cowardly act and reminded politicians they're putting lives at risk. In recent days, politicians in various counties sent letters notifying them their plans to move from red phase to yellow on May 15th. According to the governor, counties that do not follow the stay-at-home order will not get funding because they're putting all of us at risk and operating illegally. He said non-compliant counties will not qualify for federal discretionary funds. Quote, to these politicians who decide to cave in to this coronavirus, they need to realize the consequences of their cowardly act. The funding we'll have put aside to help fighting this crisis will go to the folks who are doing their part. And that includes our CARES Act funding that will be used to support counties that are following orders to prevent the spread. Wolf told business owners that these politicians are putting their businesses at risk of losing their health department certificate, liquor license, and certificate of occupancies. Now, think of what he's saying there. If you live in a county and your county says, okay, go ahead and open up, and Tom Wolf disagrees and says that violates his order, he'll take your license to operate. He'll take your health certificate. He called you a coward. He said that if you break the law, there'll be consequences. He had no time for this. He said that it would lead to deaths. Now, fast forward to Monday. There was supposed to be a press conference with Tom Wolf. He had put out a statement over the weekend that was completely opposite when it came to the protests that were occurring in Pennsylvania about the death of George Floyd. Now, despite these facts that these protests had riots that occurred in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, Tom Wolf still played lip service to him and talked about the need to fight systemic racism and why these protests were important. My friend Todd Bartley was able to attend the press conference, and Wednesday was going to be able to ask Secretary Levine of the Department of Health why Tom Wolf called people cowards who wanted to open their businesses and provide for their family, but he celebrated protesters, some of which ended up leading to riots in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia that wanted to protest about a cop killing someone states over. 15 minutes before he went in to ask this question, he found out that in Dauphin County, where Harrisburg is located, it's still under code yellow, which he'd known that, which means you can't have large gatherings. 15 minutes before he got to ask the question, he heard that Tom Wolf was personally in Dauphin County at a protest that had over 200 people. In other words, Tom Wolf was breaking his own law. And so he decided to ask Secretary Levine what was going on. Here's the question and her response.
Secretary, Dauphin County just moved to yellow on May 29th, which means no large gatherings. And apparently there's a march going on that has more than 200 people in it today in Dauphin County. Can you clarify the administration's position on May 11th? Business owners were called cowards for wanting to reopen their businesses, and today the governor is actually marching in that Is that not in violation of your order and his order for large gatherings?
Well, so we have, the governor has always said that people have the right to protest and to demonstrate and the right of free speech. And so overall, we want large gatherings such as maybe a party or some type of concert or something to be under 250 people. But we are not restricting people's right to protest. There are also obviously significant social issues, that are present, that people feel that they need to have a voice. And so the governor is always supportive of that and is participating in that. April, there is a question back there.
Now notice she didn't offer up for a follow-up because my friend Todd would have said, that's outrageous. You said that people that violated the law would face consequences, would not get federal funding or money, and they would lose their job. Why doesn't that apply to Tom Wolf? It was one thing for him to pay lip service to these protesters that were breaking the law, but he himself breaking the law is an outrage. This is indicative of what we've seen from leaders all across this country. They don't feel the rules apply to them. They think they can threaten you. Remember, it wasn't as if he said, I understand people that want to open their business, but, unfortunately, we think it'll cause the virus to spread and kill people. He called you a coward. He threatened you. If you want to feed your family, you are a coward. If you want to protest a cop that died states over, then you're a noble hero. Why is it that COVID can't spread all of a sudden in these crowds? Are they lying when they said that we need to shut down? Because otherwise the virus would spread and kill people? Or are they lying when they say that the protest won't spread the virus? I think it's the former. I think this is evidence that they didn't care about these deaths, as evidence of the fact that Tom Wolf's policy was to put nursing home patients with COVID back in the nursing home, therefore encouraging the spread and leading to mass deaths there. And now we see evidence that he doesn't even believe his own lies. He'll threaten you if you want to provide for your family, but if he wants to go out and get a photo op to be with these protesters, he thinks that's highly appropriate. Call your state representative. Demand that we lift these lockdowns now. If they're good enough to not be enforced for Tom Wolf, then your family's just as important. We're sick and tired of leaders, people like Tom Wolf, that stand on a moral high ground and threaten us and claim that they know what they're talking about, then violating the very same things and laws that they pass that they demand we enforce. They don't care about your family and livelihood. All they care about is increasing their power. And that's what the lockdown was about the entire time.
There you go. June. How did robnoerr get it right? How did I know? That's June 2020. They want amnesty. Here's a video I did letting my dogs out on my phone. This is from May 17th, 2020.
The same people that told us that if we didn't want a lockdown, we didn't care if old people died, people like Cuomo, people like my governor, Tom Wolf, they set up policies that forced sick COVID patients in nursing homes to go back to those nursing homes instead of allowing them in hospitals. And now they use those deaths as a reason that we should trust them and have more lockdowns. This is ridiculous. We should have never locked down. We should never have let these tyrants take away our rights and collapse the economy. And is it them that's paying the price? Is it them that's going to make sacrifices? Absolutely not. Every time these tyrants say that we need to sacrifice, what they mean is us normal Americans on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. We need to sacrifice. It's time to stand up to these people and tell them, no, we refuse to accept your tyranny. It's time to let them stop virtue signaling that they care about old people dying when they're actually sentencing them to death. Please stand up to this and start supporting people that are fighting against this lockdown.
Amnesty, though. Never mind that Rob was right. Never mind people like me was right. Never mind that they intentionally hurt your children. Never mind all that. Amnesty now. All of these stories from before the election that I was talking about. Just looking here. This is, I was briefly trying to do list shows. Here we go. This is March 14th. March. This is March 14th, 2020. Ready?
So there's a lot coming out with the coronavirus, and I wanted to discuss my top 5 reasons how you could tell that it's majorly political. A lot of these people that are spending a lot of time fear-mongering and focusing on this. So let's get to them real quick. Number 5 would be people saying it's a Chinese virus or it's a Wuhan virus is racist. We see Democratic people like AOC, also people in the media saying this. We had the World Health Organization come out, and one of their big takeaways was, we got to make sure to fight racism when it comes to blaming China in places like this. This is absurd. We've had things like the Spanish flu, we've had Ebola. All of these are named after the places they come from. If we can't even name that there were a lot of failures in China and that's why the virus got so bad, and it's somehow racist to talk about it, it shows that it's purely political and not about saving lives. Number 4 is when they passed a bill or tried to put forth a bill to fund things to help the coronavirus, they included things like abortion funding and all sorts of other pork projects. This shows they're not really concerned about saving lives with coronavirus. They're concerned about making it political. Number 3 is the plans that happened. So Biden's plan, that he criticized Trump's plan, but Biden's plan's largely plagiarized from Trump's plan. In fact, he suggests doing almost exactly the same things Trump did. And then we see people like Schumer that were tweeting out in early February that it was terrible and xenophobic of Rush who wanted to ban people from China or flights going to and from China. Well, we can see now they've totally changed their tune. Trump's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he does something, they say, he's a dictator, he's a tyrant. If he doesn't, they say, he's failing to protect us from the coronavirus. So it's just another example of how it's politicized. Number 2, and this is a big one, before one person died in this country, the New York Times and many other outlets were calling this the Trump virus and blaming Trump. That was before one person died, and they still did that. Shows you it's purely political. And the last reason that I think is worth mentioning is the H1N1 virus killed 60,000 Americans, and yet the media and the Democrats' take on this was the exact opposite. They told people to stay calm. They didn't recommend shutting down concert venues, sporting events, etc. Now it's completely the opposite. They're running around with their hair on fire, and they're using this all to target Trump. Remember, they're salivating at the economy collapsing because they want to blame Trump. Just like Bill Maher said, they'd be more than happy to cause a recession. They don't care if that means people suffer. As long as it harms Trump, that's their goal. It's all political.
March 14th, 2020. There I was, calling out. They're intentionally collapsing the economy to try to stop Trump from winning. That's exactly what happened. It's all political. That's exactly what happened. They're telling us that we can't discuss the failures of China. That's exactly what happened. That was in March. A lot of conservative streamers that were bigger than me were saying 15 days to slow the spread. Well, come on, Rob. Damn, I do think that's a bummer. I had to delete so many videos. So shitty. Just absolutely so shitty. The amount of content I lost. Because you have to understand, I had to delete them like within 20 minutes. I didn't have a chance to back anything up. One other place I could check. Let me check here. Oh, yeah, there it is. This was from July. This is a longer one. This is 10 minutes. This is from Odyssey. It's got my hookup. Thank you, Odyssey. Jesus, that's crazy. This is from July. So you can see, so I'm not lying. July 2nd, 2020. This one's got some swear words, so we don't want 1.5 speed. Regular speed. 10 minutes.
I've had it. I've had it of being called a racist. I've had it of being told that I'm somehow inferior, that I'm less educated, that I'm somehow a 10-toothed rube, like Rick Wilson said.
That video, the previous video, was March of 2020. March 17th, 2020. Top 5 reasons that I knew the reaction to coronavirus was political. Hell, it was before we were calling it COVID, when we were still calling it Corona. This is from July 2020. Every video I've showed you so far has been from March 2020, May 2020, or June or July of 2020. Every single one. We'll start this over. It's a 10-minute one, so bear with me.
I've had it. I've had it of being called a racist. I've had it of being told that I'm somehow inferior, that I'm less educated, that I'm somehow a 10-toothed rube, like Rick Wilson said on CNN, that I'm a racist if I disagree with the disastrous positions of Black Lives Matter that would be bad not only for all Americans, but particularly for Black Americans. I'm tired of saying if I don't believe corporate-led revolutions, that somehow that makes me an immoral person. I'm tired of people saying that I have to cower down and shut my mouth or I'll lose my job if I don't cow down to this mob. I'm tired of having to say, yeah, I hear you. Maybe there's a case for tearing down Confederate statues. I don't care. I don't have any love for Confederate statues. I don't care. But I'm not going to give in to the mob. I'm tired of it. It's worth fighting for its own sake. We're not going to listen to a bunch of people that hate this country and want to overthrow it and return us to segregation and want to make us a globalist, fascist, Marxist society. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of trying to calmly explain to people things like why toddlers shouldn't be able to vote and why you shouldn't be allowed to take people's property and we should have property rights. I'm tired of explaining to people why the police should arrest people that steal from stores, why they should arrest people that are skipping out on subway tolls. These are all conversations I've had this week. I'm tired. The people among us that know the least are the most arrogant and most confident that they know more than everyone else. I'm sick and tired of it. They don't live in the real world. They don't have real jobs. I had someone tell me about COVID. I said, how long do we have to get locked down in your world? They said, I live in Australia. The government just pays us. We can stay locked down indefinitely. I have to explain to you that if no one's working, let's just make it real simple. If no one's working on the farms, how's the government going to send you food? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being attacked. I'm tired of having been crushed in the culture war. I'm tired of Republican leaders that claim that they're defending us that aren't doing squat. I'm tired of on my radio show when I bring Republicans on, they say, yeah, we got to get back in the fight. And all they're doing is proposing legislation and filing court cases that they eventually lose. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people getting in touch with me saying that they're going to contact my employer and get me fired because I had the temerity to argue against Black Lives Matter. I'm sick and tired of having to pretend, oh, it's a noble thing. What they're doing out there is noble. It's not. They're terrorists. Does that mean everyone involved with them is? No. But if you're aligned with terrorists and you're marching with terrorists, then you're hurting this country. And I'm tired of pretending it's not the case. We have a nerve. We have backbones on here. Where's our leaders? I go in a panel, people say, can we just agree? I'm a conservative, but can we just agree if Trump would just wear a mask, then COVID would be solved? Really? So it's just about masks now. So we didn't need to lock down. Well, no, you still need the lockdown, but let's be honest, it's Republicans. Really? It wasn't Democrats. And they're experts that said it was okay to go out by the hundreds of thousands and protest for Black Lives Matter, shoulder to shoulder, while they're burning down buildings. Well, all the scientists say that those contact tracers proved that the Black Lives Matter protests didn't spread the virus. Fuck you! I'm tired of the... Ugh. Your experts are full of it, if that's what they're claiming. These two things can't be true. That if you're shoulder to shoulder and if you're in large crowds, you spread COVID, but not if you're protesting for Black Lives Matter. Either they were wrong originally or they're wrong now. And I'm tired of being treated because they have the experts. The experts say this. Then I'm done with the experts. I don't care. The same experts, 5,000 of them that signed on, that said science, technology, engineering, and math is racist. The same experts that are endorsing Black Lives Matter, that's against the values of the Enlightenment and doesn't believe there's a thing such as truth, that's been attacking all of our hard sciences and arts, those experts? I'm tired of it. And we have to pretend. Oh, no. Here's a paper I have from the experts. These great experts that did this study say that, Black Lives Matter couldn't have spread this disease. Thousands of Bush officials have signed on to elect Joe Biden. Thousands of former Intel officials have signed on that Trump needs to be impeached over the Ukraine. They didn't care about Biden's quid pro quo that Trump was trying to investigate. They don't care that the president of Ukraine's top prosecutor has came public with evidence that Biden committed extortion with U.S. tax dollars, including audio from Joe Biden himself, including financial transactions. They don't care. The experts didn't care about that. But Trump investigating it. The same experts that told us the FBI didn't do anything wrong in the Russia investigation. Only they did. It's war. That's what it is. I'm not advocating violence. Breitbart was a prophet. He saw this in 2008. Listen to him. You know what Breitbart's background was? He said, here's how I got into it. I lived in LA. I was a socialite. I went to all the cocktail and pool parties where everyone laughed at flyover country. But then he visited flyover country and he realized how arrogant and horrible and wrong all of these institutions were. We're talking about institutional and systemic bigotry and racism. Name me one institution that sticks up for rural America, for flyover country. Give me one. We're just told how privileged we are if we have a certain skin color. And God forbid you be a person of color from flyover country or a conservative person of color. You'll get attacked even harder. Look, I love Breitbart and he's an inspiration to me. But I don't need someone to come in and fight for me anymore. I'm going to fight for myself. I don't care what it costs. I'm sick and tired of the deck being stacked against people like us, normal Americans, being stacked against us, and us having to constantly grovel or be silent out of fear or wait for some leader to come along. There is no leader coming along. It's up to us. I'm sick and tired of the lies and the misdirection and the sophistry and the excuses and the hypocrisy. I showed you that video the other day. Black Lives Matter protesters start beating this man. What's the first thing the crowd starts yelling? Don't record it. Don't record it. Don't record it. They're liars. They don't want it recorded because they don't want it to be shown the thug terrorists that they are. But I have to believe 99% of these protesters are peaceful. So they sit around and watch innocents get beat and watch stores get burned? Oh, but it's all the police officers' fault. All of the violence was because tear gas was shot. It's garbage and you know it. And I'm tired of engaging on that level and pretending that these people are arguing in good faith. They're not. And if they are arguing in good faith, they're so ignorant that it makes worthwhile dialogue almost impossible. I'll keep plugging away. I'll keep doing these debates. I'll keep being polite. I'll keep keeping an open mind. But I know what they're doing. I know. And make no mistake about it, they're winning. They are winning. They've won the culture war. They control academia. They control the media. They control Silicon Valley. They control the entertainment industry. They control corporate America. All of it. Go order a McDonald's cheeseburger. Let me know what their motto is now. Turn on Amazon. Get some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Go to Chase Bank. Any corporation, Nike. All buying into the Marxist terrorists trying to overthrow this country. All the great people in my family, in my life, in my community, all they want to do is go to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week and provide for their families. And they're treated like shit over and over and over. And I'm sick of it. That's what keeps me going, them. We have a Marxist-fascist revolution. Why isn't it directed at the people in charge? If you think that there's systemic racism, why aren't you directing your protests and your riots at the people that control the systems? Instead, you're rioting in inner-city communities, burning down black communities, and directing your anger at normal Americans. And making it somehow racial, as if all white people are responsible or white people have original sin. Can't you see this is exactly what the establishment wants? Because their biggest fear is that people, regardless of skin color, will come together and say, this establishment has screwed us over for 60 years. But you can't bring that up or you're called a racist.
Yeah, Odyssey. I'll put the link. Share. I'll put it on Twitch. Someone asked, what's my wife and kid think? That was 2020. That was before I had a kid. You know, always family comes first. You have to be careful. You don't want to go out and do something crazy. I'm against all political violence. I was against it in that video. I've been against it well before that. I'm against it well after it. So I'm not advocating fighting in that sense. And I understand there are things you have to do. I've had to make compromises. I've had to bite my lip at work events because I can't afford to lose my job while I'm getting indoctrinated too. But at some point, you have to have some integrity and you have to stand up. Thank you, Sirius. Yeah, I remember doing that video. If you go back and you watch the things that I was saying leading into the 2020 election, I was warning over and over. I said, every Trump rally I go to, everyone's like, Trump's going to win 48 states. I said, this sounds like Hillary supporters in 2016. Where is your hubris? The Democrats are allowing people to burn down the country. They're allowing and encouraging the destruction of our economy. Do you think that they want, what do you think they're capable of doing to make sure they win this election, if those things? Thanks, Galil. I appreciate it. Yeah, my Odyssey channel has a ton of my old videos because I was uploading to there as well. Unfortunately, with YouTube, I had to, it's terrible, but I had to delete all of this stuff. So I tried my best. This was before I really had a Rumble account. I tried my best to upload everything to Odyssey. It sort of auto uploads. So there should be a ton of stuff there. I mean, you could just go through it. You look at the things I was talking about. Going way back. 2020, 2019, 2018. I was talking about Ukraine. I was talking, in 2020, in March of 2020, I started talking seriously about COVID and about the economy and how it was going to be crushed. And I would say that I was right 98% of the time. Talked about the indoctrination of children and our education system. I was doing panels with ridiculous people arguing all of this stuff. I just, for whatever reason, don't have a big following. It's a little frustrating now. I see some Johnny-come-latelys, that are, I don't begrudge anyone their success. But I was back then. I was like saying in March, there was Sarah Corrier, who's now Sarah Kane. She was with me about how terrible lockdowns were. Drone Tech was with me. But other than that, even conservatives that I were associated with were like, Rob, you're going too far. Constitutional conservatives were arguing me on blog posts I was on. How I sold out Trump by being against lockdowns. You see. I mean, I was streaming 2 hours a night. See if...
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
May
So to start
6th,
with,
2020.
and I'll probably do another little
Lockdown
video that shows
Live.
this, but I'll be doing a live stream probably around 2:15 today, 2:15 Eastern time. And then tomorrow evening on Sarah Corrier's channel, I'll be doing a live stream as well. So today what I wanted to talk about, the video that I want to make is about how the models have been wrong and the lockdowns over and over and over again. It shows the lockdowns have done next to nothing. Now, the first thing that's worth pointing out is like a country such as Sweden. We had this doctor, Dr. Ferguson, at the Imperial College study. If you check out the last video I did, you can see that he was the guy who was responsible for the Imperial College study. He was one of the main people connected to the UK government. His study was used to enforce the lockdowns in both the US and the UK. He famously predicted 2.2 million Americans would die without the lockdowns, 500,000 Brits would die without the lockdown. And then 2 days after that prediction, 2 days after Britain's lockdown, he adjusted that to 20,000, which I believe I figured out the math finally was 25 times more people would die if we didn't have the lockdown than if we didn't. Now, I talked to you about this before. The reason we could prove that that's wrong is because when we look at a country like Sweden that didn't do the lockdown, even if they say, well, just like we saw, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's in the UK, that's kind of their point man on this. But when he came out and admitted that the UK has the worst death toll other than the United States, despite the lockdown, he said, well, we can't compare, be careful comparing to other countries. That excuse works when you're talking about maybe 2, 3, 4 times the amounts of death. But the prediction for the model that they used said 25 times more people would die without the lockdown. That means that any factor of looking at Sweden and saying, well, their healthcare system's a little better, or, well, you know, their population's a little younger, or something like that, all of that would be overwhelmed by the massive apocalyptic amount of deaths that were predicted by the Imperial College study. Now, the gentleman who predicted that, and remember, that's what led to your lockdowns, he was off while he was saying that you're a rotten person if you don't just give up your livelihood and voluntarily embrace this lockdown, and that the government should enforce lockdowns. While he was saying that, he was banging his mistress, and he was diagnosed with COVID. Now, we see this all over the place. We saw that the mayor of Chicago, she told people they couldn't get a haircut. She went out and got a haircut. When she was confronted on it, she said, I need a haircut. I'm on television. See, to them, you could tell that it's not serious, because if they were afraid they were going to die, or they were going to cause tens of thousands of people to die, they wouldn't worry about haircuts. They wouldn't worry about banging their mistress. But the fact that they don't care shows that either they're psychopaths that don't care about people dying, and we shouldn't be listening to them anyways, or they know the truth, that this was all overblown hype in the first place. So now what we see is the UK admitting they have the worst death toll, that places like Sweden have done much better. How can that be? How can it be the place that had the biggest lockdown has the second worst death toll? We're told all the time in the United States, right? Our healthcare system needs to be more like the UK. The UK, that's a great healthcare system. They could do it in the UK. They have universal healthcare. Why can't we do it in the United States? Is their healthcare system so poor that we're starting to see more people die there despite the lockdown? I don't think that's the case. I think the case is the lockdown didn't do anything. We see it state by state. States that did less for the lockdown, such as South Dakota, such as Georgia, their curve has been almost identical to the states that did do the lockdown. Which goes to further show what I've been saying. I was one of the first people that I saw say this, was saying it way back in early to mid-March. There are 2 types of viruses that you could deal with. One is that a virus like Ebola has a really high death rate, so lockdowns like that might make sense. But other viruses that kill a lot of people, like the flu, they kill a lot of people not because the death rate, the mortality rate's really high, but because it spreads so much. That's what we're seeing with COVID. I'm not saying that the deaths by COVID aren't a big deal or anything like that. I think they're being overblown, and I've done videos on that to show that they're saying everything that remotely looks like COVID is a COVID death. Hence why we're seeing the flu numbers this year are way down. Remember, I told you from the get-go, the way we look at this, when it's all over, is you don't look at how many people died of COVID versus how many people died of influenza. You look at how many people died of infectious diseases in the United States in 2019, in 2018, and how many in 2020. Because as I said, people don't want to talk about this stuff, but many of the people that have been, quote, died of COVID were people that would have died of flu or pneumonia and other illnesses such as that. So we need to look at the number in totality to see how much more of an effect COVID had, and did it warrant the lockdown that we're seeing? I think the answer will be no. So now we're seeing also that the majority of these deaths are in places like nursing home. If you watched Tucker's show last night, he had someone on that talks about Cuomo, the mayor of New York. He mandated that people that tested positive that worked in long-term care facilities be sent back to work. Now, if you really cared, why wouldn't we be doing things to help the places hardest hit most? Why wouldn't we be ensuring they get the test first? Why wouldn't we be ensuring that state resources were going uniquely to these nursing homes? We know that's where the majority of deaths are occurring. Yet instead, we have this one-size-fits-all approach. Shut down everything. We can see that the shutdown, not only is it infringement on our rights, as I've talked about over and over, not only is it devastating to us economically, not only do the leaders that are suggesting that we have these types of lockdowns not listen to their own recommendations or their enforcements, as we can see over and over, but now what we're going to see is when we lift the lockdown, it allows them to say, oh, look, death spiked, we shouldn't have lifted it. Just today, I saw a new models predicting 300-something thousand people dead by end of June if we reopen states. Let's say for a moment that that's true. This means that I was correct in the get-go when I said we should force the government to answer basic questions before they take away our rights and lock us down and shut out the economy. Because if they would have answered the question of how can we be sure that the lockdown will save lives, they would have had to say, well, it will only save lives if we enforce the lockdown for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Then it would have allowed the American people to make a more informed decision. Is it worth it? I say it's not worth it. But instead they said, oh, just temporarily lock down. Even Trump and them said, oh, just to lock down for a little. We might be open by Easter. But it turns out that they knew all along, according to their models, that, if we don't have the lockdown for 6 months or so, then it'll be basically worthless. Now, the truth is that their models about the lockdown, I don't trust them. It's for anything, just like I don't trust the government and their numbers on any of this. They've lied to us repeatedly over and over. Remember, in Pennsylvania alone, 11% of the deaths that were attributed to COVID had to be redistributed, and once checked out, once coroners started speaking up saying, no, these deaths weren't from COVID, they said, oh, our bad, that was a mistake. We'll reclassify them. If that happened in Pennsylvania, how do we know it's not happening all over the place? But we see that places like Sweden, even Trump came out and said Sweden did it wrong. Look, again, I'm someone who's going to vote for Trump, most likely. I'm someone who supported Trump his entire presidency and the coup against him. I've been vocal on it. But what kind of insanity is this from Trump? On one hand, he's saying, liberate Michigan, open it up. But on the other hand, he's criticizing Georgia for opening up and saying countries like Sweden that did the right thing and didn't lock down, oh, well, they're worse than Finland, so it was a bad idea. But we see that places that lock down even more, like Italy, Germany, the UK, all have higher per capita death rates than Sweden. And it wasn't, again, here's the important thing to remember. It's not just saying, well, it's 0.5% here, 0.5% there. That's not really a justification for these types of actions. Things could be different. They said that 25 times more people would die without a lockdown. 2.2 million Americans would die without a lockdown. That's what they said. Then they adjusted those numbers to 60,000. That's what their model said. So the models were wrong. The models that our government used initially were wrong. The numbers show over and over that the mortality rate is increasingly low, that many, many people have it asymptomatically, which means that it's already spread. If the lockdown was going to work, you needed to lock down before it massively spread, and your lockdown needed to be complete. Not, well, we'll keep the liquor store open, we'll keep the candy store open, we'll keep Walmart open. At best, the government in all levels, state and federal, are inept. At worst, they're corrupt. I think Trump's failed, and how it proves that the models that were used to justify the lockdown are wrong. If we know those models are wrong, why do we still have the lockdown? Violating quarantine? They're not taking it seriously. Words are cheap. I can tell you, hey, don't drink and drive. But if I'm drinking and driving every day, then it's clear that I don't take drinking and driving seriously. That's what they're saying. We need an enforcement. We need to enforce the lockdowns. Yet, the people saying that, they're not locked down, are they? So, it's time, again, and the last thing I'll say, and this was the video I did previous to this, what is your representative done? What have the Republicans done in all this? The Democrats have gotten everything they wanted. Massive explosion of federal government, massive redistribution of wealth, massive taking away the rights of the middle class. They got everything. Of course they'll push for more, but this is a dream to them. What have the Republicans done? They go along with it and then say, well, the Democrats are bad. You went along with it. Everything. Where were the Republicans when this lockdown happened initially saying, no, this is wrong? We refuse to accept the lockdown without evidence that it's warranted. Where were they? There's one or two of them. Run for office yourself. I'm going to be running in 2022. Run for local office. Run for state office. Run for federal office. Find someone who's principled that's not going to just say whatever their polling place says. Oh, now it's popular to be for people's right. Now the lockdown's unpopular. So now you could be against the lockdown. But when it was popular, when people bought into the fear-mongering, where were you then? So, thanks for listening, everyone. I just want to say real quick, if you're out there and you're one of my mods, I want to get in touch with you all soon, just about a couple things.
I was wrong about running in 2022. That I was wrong about. But I didn't know I'd have a kid. So that kind of put the original plan was to run. Let's go back. March. What was I saying? But now they want amnesty. No one could have predicted. No one predicted. No one was saying that. I was. I didn't get to go on the bigger shows. I didn't have a big audience. But I was on the panels once a week arguing against these lockdown morons. I was doing my live stream 3-4 times a week. I was doing short form videos. Most of those videos have 30, 40 people watch them. I was dead right. Over and over and over. Other conservatives were saying, well, 15 days to slow the spread, and I don't know about all that. I wasn't just pulling things out of my ass either. I was reading. I was looking at studies. I was listening to scientists. They were being censored too. And just like I told you, they will rewrite history. Just like we didn't say defund the police. We didn't call for lockdowns. We didn't. Bullshit. I don't have the energy today to go on the stories of just that I've heard from people calling into radio channels or responding to questions, or people I know in my real life of how they suffered because of these lockdowns, how they suffered because their kids were locked down from school. I can't talk a lot about what I do at work because of privacy concerns. But let me tell you, people that I work with disabilities suffered mightily because of these lockdowns. Some of the people I work with have their social situations very unique. They may only have 1 or 2 friends. Maybe they were in a facility their whole life. And so you work really hard to increase their social network. I don't mean Facebook, I mean meeting people, doing things, getting out into the community. And that's all taken away. All of it. Gains that took 5, 6, 7 years of working with people to get them comfortable in the community. Try to explain to them, sorry, you can't go out. Why? Well, there's this virus in the air. They say we can't. I warned people. They were going to become more and more authoritarian. I was saying things like, you think this is bad? Wait until you see what they try to do under climate change. So I wanted to show some of that today. Not just to say, look how awesome I am, but look how awesome I am. But in response to that article that came out from The Atlantic. Oh, we should give amnesty. By the way, Randy Weirgarten, the head of the teachers union, that was instrumental in working with the Biden administration to push school lockdowns, she liked the tweet. Yeah, we should give amnesty to people in decisions. They laughed at you. They started things called the Herman Cain Awards. They wanted you dead. They admitted they wanted to make your life hell. 1/3 of Democrats polled said you shouldn't even be allowed to have your kids in your home if you didn't take the medications they wanted. They treated you like shit. They acted like it was your fault. Now they're saying, well, hey, don't judge us for that. These weren't some, oh, well, we had to, make some tough decisions, and it turned out you were kind of right and we were kind of wrong. Oh, well, let's let bygones be bygones. This was them treating you like shit for 2 years, blaming all of society's ills on you, while they listened to people that were screwing over this country to gain more power for themselves. And they arrogantly listened to those people like Dr. Fauci, while they smeared people like me and you. And now they're saying, our bad, can we go back to the way things were? No, we can't. And one of the reasons why is, if we don't make these people held accountable, they're going to do it again and again and again and again and again. Until finally the globalist establishment gets what they want. Obedient, compliant, dependent people that will not raise their voice in objection to anything the establishment wants. Trust the experts. Big Daddy government would never lie to me. This is what they say I have to believe. We need to censor everyone because it's hate speech if anyone criticizes the government. The Intercept put out an awesome article. I want to go through it more. Hopefully I'll cover it tomorrow. That talks about the DHS was having monthly meetings with these social media companies, telling them what stories to censor. It says they're still doing it. They want to continue to do stories on COVID and on the Afghanistan withdrawal and Russia, Ukraine. It's not going to stop. Played a little video here. Some of you may have came in late. I made a little 2-minute video today. Or I guess it's 6.5. My mistake. No amnesty for COVID authoritarians. So there's an article that... I'm not going to play it again, but I'll put the link. So I played this video and some, I assume lefty. They commit, Rob's wrong about this one thing. Then it turns out I really wasn't. But you know what they wanted to talk about? Paul Pelosi. That's what they wanted to talk about because they're experts at controlling the narrative. Constantly this. They'd say you're wrong, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're harmful, you should be censored. And then, when it turns out you were right a year later, they're like, we don't want to talk about that. Can we just have amnesty? Just amnesty, please. It's the same people that told you, defund the police, defund the police. And when I said, yeah, you know what that's going to do? That's going to cause crime to spike in these neighborhoods. No, it won't. Now they're saying, we never said that. We never said defund the police. We meant something different. Do you understand? People are like Nuremberg 2.0, right? Where he says that. I don't disagree for the people like Fauci. But they know that. Do you know how high the stakes for them are? You know how intoxicated Dr. Fauci was to be one of the biggest celebrities in the world? To be getting interviewed on magazines, pictures taken, being brought on late night comedy shows. Going from a basically inept, corrupt bureaucrat to now one of the most powerful people in the world. You know how hard it is for him and the rest of the people like that to give it up? And then on top of that, oh, by the way, if they give it up, it might just come out. Maybe it might just come out that when he was funding with your tax dollars, the Wuhan virology lab, they were creating this mess. So the guy had a vested interest in saying we should censor people that say that. And we should tell them to listen to everything I say because the last thing that he wants is to not just lose that celebrity in power, but to also be looked at with scrutiny. You think that crew's going to be happy to lose some elections? Or do you think they might have a vested interest in using their power to help make sure that doesn't happen? As the stakes get higher and the lies more blatant, they have only one tool in the box that they have to go to over and over. Authoritarianism. At this point, they're all in. Now, I warned people all of 2020. I said, they're literally allowing rioters to light fires across cities in this country. They're standing down on purpose to blame Trump. They're causing economic destruction just so they can blame Trump. What do you think they're not capable of? But you are a conspiracy theorist if you said, I think the government's encouraging censorship of people that disagree. No, that can't be the case. Trump was the fascist. Trump was the one that had an attack on the free press. Maybe the dumbest community online, the Vosh community. I was arguing with them. One second. And I thought it would be interesting just to show you what one of these people said. We'll start with the Vosh post on Twitter. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but he says, violent, mentally unwell conspiracists are the vanguard for fascist violence. Make no mistake, the right is lying about the assassination attempt on Pelosi. They want it to happen more often and more successfully, and they need to play cover for that to happen. I said, you openly called for shooting Trump supporters. You didn't call out left-wingers for trying to assassinate Kavanaugh. As always, you accuse others of what you yourself do. Citation needed, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Here's your citation. That never happened, says these people. That couldn't have happened. No way. Couldn't have happened.
Take shit. They weren't. There's okay. If you want to drive around with guns, you have.
On a platform such as Twitch or YouTube, recognize you're not in my group if you don't recognize genocide against all people on a platform such as Twitch or YouTube, and consider what would happen to them. Ready?
But like others will say, like, no, don't do that. There might be attempts at ousting. Remember during the Black Lives Matter rallies, you know, there were like those Patriot Prayer dumb fucks rolling their, you know, $60,000 trucks through like urban neighborhoods with a bunch of guys with guns in the pickup trucks. When that happens, I want people to be able to take shots at them from apartment windows.
Take shit. They weren't. There's okay. If you want to drive around with guns, you have.
Get it? Now, let's see what Vosh's audience says. He would never say that. Vosh would never say that. Where did Vosh say that? Look, interesting how you don't post the video in which Vosh supposedly did that, but a video of someone claiming he did this. I said it's his own words. In which video did Vosh speak those words? Over and over. Go through that thread. Look at it. Over and over. This is what these people say. Oh, yeah, you don't have Vosh actually saying that. Dude, it's literally his words. His words. Then they just make excuses for it. I knew before you linked it you were conflating far-right militias in a hypothetical civil war with Trump supporters in their day-to-day lives, which is peach projection on your part, bro. LMAO. In other words, they'll just say, and they're saying this all through this, they're like, no. What it is we're just talking about the racists, the Nazis, the white supremacists. That's all we're talking. Those are the people we need to shoot. Yeah, but the problem is, who do they consider to be white supremacists? Well, everyone that disagrees with them. They'll be the arbiters. They say, we reserve the right to violence if someone's heinous enough. And then they say, oh, and when we use violence on you, that's because you're heinous enough. You see? You see the convenience of it? Isn't that nice? Here, you don't believe me? He was talking about white supremacists and Nazis, who should in fact be shot on sight. Why, says this guy. Why what? Also, why you delete I'm a Nazi all of a sudden, so I should be shot? Thought experiment. Of course we should shoot them. Just the Nazis, though. Oh, and by the way, Trump supporters are Nazis. Source, I made it the fuck up, says that guy. Have some integrity for once in your fucking life, but he hit me first. You sound like a 4th grade child. Rob's indicative of the overall moral conservative Christian movement. It's okay if his side does something as long as he can find the weakest tangential link to similar behavior. Their bad thing never gets denounced and becomes washed out in whataboutism. Vosh said that the Patriot Prayer people, he wants a world where they're getting shot at. Does anyone know how the Patriot Prayer rally in Portland there ended? Anyone remember? Anyone remember? That's right. One of them got murdered on video. Must be a Vosh fan, huh? Thanks for the follow with the band. I'm not going to play the video. Video captures deadly shooting of man in Patriot Prayer cap during Portland protest. Shocking video captured the moment the man in a right-wing Patriot Prayer cap was shot dead in Portland after a day of violent clashes between Trump supporters and Black Lives Matter. Declared dead on the scene. So according to the left here, right? We have to focus on this attacker, Paul Pelosi. We don't know his motivation, but we on the right have to say, we're sorry. My God, we're sorry for ever criticizing the left. You're right. We should just be quiet. Anytime someone goes out and commits violence against a left-winger, it's my fault. It's people like me's fault. We should know better than criticize the left. That's what they think. But when they have a guy that they follow like Vosh that's saying, I want a world where people are shooting at Patriot Prayer out of windows, and there's an actual... Vosh actually said that statement after a murder. So he full well damn knew that leftists were doing that and killing people, at least one person, and Vosh still makes that statement, and his crowd's like, oh, that's whataboutism. What you're doing is like totally worse. And yes, I did criticize the attack of Paul Pelosi. And I didn't even say, oh, this must have been his gay lover. Go back and watch my fucking video. You want to hear what I said? Here, I'll play the video. But they don't care to look. I'm responding to Vosh saying, the right wants terrorism. They want violence. And I'm like, dude, you literally call for the shooting of people. And Bosch's fans are like, that's whataboutism. Here's what I said. Here's the video.
You have to give the Democrats and sort of the establishment a tip of the cap because they know how to control a narrative so much. You need to stop focusing on this attack of Paul Pelosi. It's terrible that he was attacked. I condemn all violence, political violence, and things of that nature, unless it's something in self-defense. But it doesn't appear that that's the case. We have no idea what the actual details of the story is. It seems strange and things like that. It's fine to talk about that. But let's be honest. The central point that the Democrats are making, including people like Biden, Obama, and others like that, is that this is a result of criticisms of the Democrats and the rhetoric of populists and conservatives that are upset with the way that the country's going. And that inspired this guy. There's no proof of that, and even if that did inspire this guy, don't play this game. The Democrats don't care when they inspire people to have assassination attempts of Brett Kavanaugh or to shoot Steve Scalise. They don't care when Lee Zeldin was attacked. They don't care when Rand Paul was attacked and they laugh at him. Stop playing the game. The more you talk about this, even if it does show that Paul Pelosi was up to something shady, that is beneficial to the Democrats because that's less you're talking about the insane crisis at the border and fentanyl overdoses.
I don't have to finish. I started off condemning it. I still condemn it. I did a stream in the car before that, which sadly, the audio was choppy. But what I was saying in that is, look, I said this specifically in my car stream. I said, I'm not going to say this is his gay lover. I don't mind people questioning and things like that. But what if it wasn't? What if it's a man with a skull fracture and he didn't do anything wrong and it was some psycho that broke into his house for a robbery or because he had psychosis or maybe it was for political motivation? So I'm not going to, to me, I'm not speculating at this point. I don't mind people speculating, that's fine. But I never said it. And even the people that did say it, they're not saying he had it coming. No one's saying that. Fuck you. I don't have to play your game. Condemn something because I said to condemn it. From people that will never condemn shit in their own side. Fuck them. I don't jump to their horn. Yes, sir, I'll tell you whatever you want to hear. I'm sorry. You control the messages. No, fuck you. You people are out there calling for shooting people. That's what I'm going to focus on. When you pretend all of a sudden you care about violence. How many times are we going to see this game? Left-wingers engage in violence on a nightly basis, riots, shootings. They're shooting Steve Scalise. They're burning down cities. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. It's mostly peaceful, blah, blah, blah. And then a right-winger does something and they go, we must condemn all right-wing rhetoric. Fuck you. Want to know how I respond to the Paul Pelosi thing? Wait and see what the facts are. No evidence it was politically motivated or that this guy was a right-winger inspired by right-wingers. I feel terrible for Paul Pelosi. It's terrible. I hope that he makes a full recovery. Anyways, how about inflation? How about fentanyl deaths? How about the border crisis? How about the crime wave? How about our collapsing foreign policy? Every second that people spend talking about, wow, what's Paul Pelosi? You had, underwear and hammers and gay lovers and blah, blah, blah. Even if that ends up being true, you understand every second of breath on this story is away from all of this COVID shit that I just talked about tonight. And again, I'm no better. I do the same thing. This is what always happens. You know, the joke I use is always the Ted Cruz in Cancun joke. Panel after panel I was doing, as we saw all of these double standards on COVID and Whitmer violating our orders and Tom Wolf violating his orders and Cuomo hiding nursing home deaths and all this shit. That was never brought up on the panels. Instead, third panel in a row, we're going to talk about Ted Cruz went to Cancun. What do you think about that? Even in the stupid Twitch, YouTube political sphere, the left knows how to control the narrative. Fuck that game. So let me put some links for you all to check out. Please check out my YouTube channel. Here's a link to my Odyssey channel. You can see all these old videos in it. I'm not perfect. I'm not. But when you default to not wanting authoritarianism to censor people and to lock people down, you're going to be right 9,990 times out of 10,000. And I am. Do I think there was any fuckery in the Brazil election? I have no clue. I mean, listen, the gut feeling is just that you see people that are right-wing or that are conservative or populist might say, yeah, it looks like there were shenanigans. I'm not there. I don't know. I have no clue. So I'm not really covering it because until I see something definitive that I could say, okay, that looks like something that needs looking into, I just don't know what to say about it. So I'm not going to cover it much. There very well could have been. It could have been legit. I don't know. There we go. Swirly's right about everything. I'm perfect. You should start a show then, Swirly. Doing it on my own here. So, okay. Just a couple programming notes, then I'm going to get out of here tonight. Tomorrow night, probably be another non-video stream, so I'll be trying that tomorrow night. Maybe we'll talk about more of this DHS letter that we found out that, yes, they are censoring. Spoiler alert, for those that thought that Russia interfering could tip the balance in our elections, what would it mean if the FBI and the government itself was interfering? I mean, I guess it's not as much as Pokemon Go memes, but Saturday is going to be my 24-hour show. It will be at 7 a.m. Saturday morning. That's Eastern time. That show will go 24 hours until Sunday at 7 a.m. That'll be my special 2,000 subscriber show. So far, I only have one guest lined up, and that's tentative. That is Primetime Alex Stein. I gotta be honest with you. I did a 24-hour show the day before the 2020 election. That was the last 24-hour show I did. And I had guests like every half hour. I probably had like 20 to 30 guests on that show. And I enjoyed that. But I had help with people. Carlos and Todd on my radio show were sort of acting as producers. I don't have that now. I've been so crazily busy. It might just be me for 24 hours. Now that might get boring. But I'll prove that I could do it. You're fucking right, I could go 24 hours by myself if necessary, or with very limited guests. So we'll see what happens that day. I'll go into it with a small plan. The goal of that stream is to push people to get out there and vote on election day for Republicans in general, for Mastriano and Dr. Oz specifically here in Pennsylvania. That's my goal, and that's what I'll be trying to do. Please check out my Rumble or YouTube channels. I will be putting short-form videos up daily. I like my new phone. The sound, the mic on it's a little weird. It's a little tingy, but I got some like editing programs. I could do my thumbnail. I could edit all on my phone now, and that makes it so much more convenient when I'm always on the road with work and stuff. So look for that. Look for me to put a video up at some point tomorrow. I'm going to try to put one a day. I am really making an effort to grow my channel, to get out there, to contact with new people. If you want to help, financial donations always appreciated. But even more than that, you know someone that would be interested in my content, link them to my channel. Link them to a video of mine. You know, I put that Odyssey video up earlier, you know, of me sort of going on about, I'll find it again for you. Now, that's 10 minutes. I think that's a pretty good understanding of what I'm about and how right I was, especially when you look at the date on that. I'll put that video again. But, you know, we're talking July 2nd, 2020. 2 days before my birthday. How about that? So, yeah, share that video with people. Put it on social media. Put it on Twitter or something. But I do thank you all. So, all right, we're going to raid Sparky. Let's raid him. I'm going to get out of here tonight. I got some work stuff to do. Put a Ukraine flag in my butt. That'll do it. So I'm going to head out of here. Thank you all so much. I appreciate all of your support, especially with these videos like this. I know it sucks. I don't have camera and stuff. I'm going to start putting in my video titles audio only, just so, because I feel like I might harm my channel by doing these videos, because people might say, oh, this is what this guy always does, and not understand. No, it's just because I'm at work. So there's nothing else I can do. But yeah, I hope you guys like the show. Enjoy this raid of my friend Aircraft Sparky. I will see you all tomorrow evening, or hear from you all at least. I don't know if I'll see you. But thank you so much. I hope you have a great Halloween. As always, have a good one.
robnoerr raiding over there at twitch.tv with a party at 25. Thank you so much for the raid. With what's going on.
I feel your pain there, Slinger Rock. Rent in my hometown was going up ridiculously, and that's in Texas. And that's just because the damn universe.